meeting convenes on the ancestral territories of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. Let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Ermshar?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Mr. Van Zant?
Here.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Here.
And Vice Chair and Chair Nye.
Here. I'll note that this is Commissioner Ermshar's last meeting.
Woo-hoo. Thank
Yeah.
you, Nevada City.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Not
I'll take a standing
yeah.
ovation, please.
There'll be no money involved.
Wendy, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comment is allowed for items not on the agenda, and there's nobody who's not involved in the agenda present. But if you have a comment for items not on the agenda, this is the time. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person. And public comment will be accepted during discussion on all agenda items. Just saying. So let's start with item 1, 104 Argyle Way Site Plan Review, Architectural Review, and Sign Review. Lisa, could you describe this, narrate this for us?
Yes. So there's several items for consideration before you today, including changes to the building for architectural review, signage, which hasn't been, which was sort of initially submitted as you saw before, and a few changes to the site plan. So forgive me here while I get my thoughts organized. I'll just kind of run through the staff report.
And just pausing a second, would you all like to join us at the table as the applicant, or sure. Whoever would like to represent the project?
You want cushy chairs? You want cushy chairs or those chairs?
Yeah. Just push one of those closer whenever you speak.
And just pausing for a second, got a message from the legal department that the sound isn't good. You're not audible, Lisa.
Okay. Well, I muted myself because it makes an echo. Okay, I'll try that.
Is
Maybe just move the
your sound
microphone.
off on your computer?
So it seems like it's that speaker that is echoing down there. Does that speaker have to be on?
Your computer speaker, is it on or off?
It's off.
Maybe just move the microphone closer to your mouth, Lisa.
Is that better?
Yeah, he changed things up a little bit.
Okay.
And I have a message that says, it occasionally says Donna 99321 is talking.
Yes, it does.
Your mic is on, at least your mic power is on,
Oh, so your mic, it's coming from your computer. Okay, so let's try this.
Thanks
Okay,
for that.
Russell. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, so it's basically like taking the,
Don't we unmute?
This makes it so convenient for us.
I don't understand why
echoing
we
too.
need that speaker.
Now we have a big echo.
Here he comes.
can you
Here
unmute?
comes the tech genius.
Unmute. Russell?
Yes, unmute that computer. Okay, Russell, how can you hear me now?
Sorry?
Is that any better?
I think you're trying to talk to me, but it's totally garbled.
And that's coming through Donna's speaker.
I don't know who Donna 99312 is.
Donna's our clerk, so she's clerking on the clerk computer.
Okay,
Where's the
Yeah, it's
voice?
going through here. It's
That's Russ.
that microphone is not picking up well.
It needs to be the microphones.
our official sound check man.
That sounds a little different somehow.
Yeah, Russell's voice is coming out of that speaker down there, I think, the conference call
Yeah.
speaker.
Yeah, I could hear that, but it was not the normal, clean.
Can you hear me if I'm talking now?
I hear you, but it's full of static and
Sounds bad.
not a clean sound at all.
Okay, we're going to pause.
All right.
The agenda isn't crowded.
Appreciate y'all doing this. I know you have other places to be.
What's more important?
And it's air conditioned in here.
It's air conditioned. Some of
No.
us have non-air conditioned.
So in July of 2023, the Onyx was approved for a conditional use permit for outdoor dining and theater use in the local business zone. The sign application has not been reviewed fully by the commission, so that is before you today, along with some changes to the architecture of the building and the site plan, some minor changes to the site plan. So I'll just run through the changes for you. First, for the site plan, the bike parking was previously proposed near the sidewalk of Searles Avenue. Now currently there is a landscape area in that location, and the bike parking is proposed to be moved to the west side of the building. And 2 bollard-style racks would be installed on top of a concrete pad, providing parking for 4 bicycles. The previous approval of planter styles on Argyle Way is also proposed to be changed to be, instead of hanging planters, planters that sit on the ground that are a Corten steel style. The size of those would be 16 inches by 16 inches by 36 inches tall. So the ones on the location of Argyle Way, and then 3 are also proposed on the somewhat blank wall near Searles Avenue. And they're basically between 2 exterior doors, so it would, the purpose of those would be to bring added interest to that more blank wall face. And then an additional site plan change is requested in the area of the proposed mural. The mural is proposed on the gable end wall facing Searles Avenue, and that will be your second item on the agenda to review and approve, if it goes that way. And the applicant requests an enlarged landscape area in front of the mural along with a concrete pad area with boulders around it. So the idea of that is that the concrete pad is a circular shape, so it would be cohesive and come out into the sidewalk. So it would give a visual effect of a circle. If somebody was standing or sitting in front of the mural, they could take photographs. The color of that area is proposed to be lamp black. We did work with the applicants on that, and city engineer and public works weighed in support of allowing that at that location. And for reference, that lamp black color is very slight. It's what you see on the sidewalk in front of the National Hotel. For proposed architectural features, the previously approved metal panels that create a railing for the outdoor dining area have a different pattern, along with a different pattern for the area of the staff break area on the Searles Avenue side of the building. So the images in your staff report, the one on the left is the moss pattern, and that would be proposed along the Argyle Way side. And then the geometric pattern would be proposed on the building and in the staff area. Also proposed is some downlighting over the railing. So there would be the metal panels and then a horizontal member with some downlighting shining onto the metal, the moss pattern. And then there's also downlighting proposed in the eaves of the building in the front, and that would shine down on the geometric pattern that's on the wall, the exterior wall. And then another change for architectural review is a proposed roof pitch break, which would be added to increase the ceiling height at the Searles Avenue entrance, to just create a more open feel when walking in that entrance and not have it feel low for folks entering. I did reference the previous approval in the staff report, which the metal panels were reviewed on July 20th, 2023 meeting. And on the iPads, both that packet and this packet are downloaded. So if you want to click back and forth, you can just go here and then open the other meeting there if you want to reference back at the previous approval. So for the moss pattern railing, it's proposed to go 36 inches high, and like I said, a horizontal member above that. And then above that, a horizontal style railing feature would act as a trellis for vegetation. This would consist of a metal frame and horizontal metal pipes, which would be 3 pipes spaced evenly along the 12-inch height. And I will let the applicant speak more about that if there's questions. That feature is only proposed along Argyle Way and would serve as a trellis for the vegetation. The previous approval for the vegetation climbing feature was 2-inch oxidized metal frame trellis with wire mesh. So you could also see that in the previous staff report. And then a change to the building facade near the marquee sign is also proposed. The marquee sign sits out from the gable end wall, and there's a roof structure that connects that area to the gable end. And previously, the metal panels were proposed in the sort of triangle section. at the end. Now they would like to do stucco there instead.
I'm kind of lost.
Uh-oh. You want me to show that?
I'm very visual, so all
Yeah,
of this is
I'm kind of like
together,
saying it all.
And yeah, to have a reference of what you're describing would be really useful.
Okay, let me bring it up here.
Are you reading your own notes?
I'm reading from the staff report.
Okay, but I don't have that right here in what I printed. That's why I'm kind of confused too. Which pages are you reading?
I'm on page 2.
The one that says 2 of 4 that has the pictures?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Share screen on yours, and they'll need to open the staff report. Other page drive.
Got a hard copy if someone wants it.
I have that hard copy. I just didn't realize there's like a page in between that, or something, the way I sorted mine.
What was the rationale on changing from that grid to those pipes? Just appearance or?
Aesthetics. And also, if,
Because when the thing got big and woody, I think it was gonna have its way with this thing, is one thing I was thinking.
yeah, half-inch diameter. I think the idea was to create more of a linear top piece.
Jasmine doesn't get that woody, but eventually trap itself in here. I guess.
Yeah, and then start to push out and deform it and everything. Yeah.
They don't get that here.
I think in discussion, Marie and Jeff came to the determination that having the horizontals was ideal, preferred over having a grid.
Not like with durability.
Yeah. And if maybe perhaps a certain portion of those plants didn't do as well, then it would still look nice.
Okay. So I'll go back for the architectural features. So this rendering here is where the perforated panels will be. That's the moss branching pattern. The visual effect of the rendering kind of makes it look like vertical members, but that is proposed to be the moss branching pattern. And then here, where the plants are growing, is the horizontal pipe sort of feature. So moss branching pattern up to 36 inches, and then 10 or 12 inches for this feature. And then the other geometric pattern, as we discussed at last year's meeting, is proposed for here, which is a tighter weave, similar to the previously approved. So that would be there, and then also on the building here. So next to the doors. So there would be downlighting proposed above this, and then on the wall would be this effect. And then what I was referencing for the roof So this is the visual effect of the pitch break on the Searles Avenue side. And it would just, again, it would just make more headroom when you walk inside.
And that's an ADA entrance, right? Is that right?
It has a ramp going up to it as well, yes.
And then
Some guys got left behind.
this shows the roof that comes out from the gable end. So this is a nearly flat roof that connects in with the existing roof. And it makes it to where the marquee sign sits, not flat against the building, but out more over this covered entry area. So this, the way that the architecture here was approved last year.
I'd like to just throw in that my recollection of it was that the structure that contained the marquee was not decided as part of architectural review at that time, and that we would review it when the sign application was complete, and the new sign marquee, how it's contained and supported would be considered at that time. So at this time, that's
Okay.
my recollection of it, and it's probably not in the, we'd find it in the video, but I'm just saying that might be open for discussion.
Right, yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look back to see if it was included in the motion or not.
I have zero recollection of a popped-out wall discussion.
Well, this is the rendering from, that was submitted last year. This wasn't submitted recently. And so, yeah, it's like a roof that goes from the overhang to the gable end wall. You can sort of see it here, how it connects to that existing roof.
I cannot see that.
Can you see it if I zoom in more?
It's more like the perspective of the drawing and the colors is not obvious to me. You know, like an actual plan would show me, but I can't say that the picture does.
Or a section,
Yeah, section or something, I can't,
like a slice through that.
yeah, I can't see it.
I, on the other hand, think it looks very descriptive.
Yeah, it's hard when the renderings aren't construction level detail. But the change that's proposed, so you'll see here that this was previously the metal branching pattern. So now it's proposed to be stucco here. And I'm guessing, and I'll let the applicant comment on that, that stucco would continue over here. Is that right? Or would it just be like a stucco face? And then would this be open or?
I think it would be stucco along the side there wrapping as well, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I like the picture because of the, the whole total. It looks nice. The downside is we don't have construction. Do we have dimensions? Those things have got to be constructed, and somebody will have to follow up and sign off on it. And what are they signing off on?
This is
You
in the
know?
packet.
It's hard to sign off on a picture.
What part of the dimensions are you?
I'm just talking about the front scape that we just saw, that picture.
No, I mean, like, I guess I'm getting at, are you concerned about the sign size? Or just every,
Well, in this case, it would be the sign size, yes.
because
the
in the
roof
staff
line-
report, it already says that they've concluded that the sign size is adequate for our
This
guidelines.
is in the packet.
I
Yeah.
missed that part, thank you.
Commissioner Van Zandt, I might also point out that this illustration, the ones like it are in your packet. It's got dimensions.
Okay, I missed that part, thank you.
There's also a detailed view, a section of the
There
of
is.
the sign itself.
Correct, yeah, on DS, sheet DS1,
No.
I think. It's a very schematic section, but it shows the cove channel, it shows the illuminated, or the LED strip light, and then it shows the aluminum channel letters. So it is a section.
So yes, the sign review today is for the marquee sign, a new Onyx Theater sign on the east gable end wall that will integrate with the proposed mural, and a freestanding two-sided directional parking lot sign near the sidewalk on Searles Avenue to direct folks to where they can park at the theater, since it is a new, it's not currently theater parking. The existing sign facing Argyle Way will remain in its current location or be installed once construction is completed to the exterior of the building. So my review of the signage included all of those signs, the existing sign, the parking lot sign, the marquee sign, and the new sign on the Searles Avenue gable end wall. They do have a large amount of square footage allowed for signs on this property. The allowance is based on frontage of the street. So since they're on a corner lot, there's 100, there's,
I thought it was 114.
yeah, 114 square feet is permissible. So it's sign area 4 square feet per lineal, per 10 lineal feet of lot frontage. And I did verify that what they proposed is less than 114 square feet. And so the size of the marquee is 2.5 feet high by 31 feet, 2 inches wide. And that totals 78 square feet of sign area. The marquee has downlighting proposed. Basically, there's a detail here. I'll zoom in on it. Which is called a cove channel. So if you envision this being the marquee, a cove channel would be like a metal bracket sort of thing that would come out and down, and then lighting would be proposed inside of that. So it would be fully shielded. And then the applicants did provide a sample light for the marquee. I'll get to that here. So that's this T-Lux series LED lighting system. Your staff report. And then this new sign on the east gable end wall is proposed to match the style of the existing sign on Argyle. The area of that new sign is 15 square feet. And then the directional sign in the parking lot is 1.5 square feet on each side. It would be a 2-sided sign.
A question while you're right in there, is it the new Onyx sign the same size as the other one on the other gable end? Are they the same size? No. This one.
I don't have my notes in front of me, but I can't recall. Chris, do you know?
It's a little bit smaller. The new one on, the gable end is smaller than the existing. Slightly smaller, but it'd be the same materials, same standoffs. What we've done on that new sign is we've added the word theater underneath it, so everything together is, when you do basically an area rectangle around the new sign, it's very close to the proportion, or it's very close to the overall size of the existing sign.
Okay,
But
thanks.
it's a little bit smaller.
And there's a summary on page 14 of all the.
Oh, don't give me information.
We wanted to make the sign bigger, but we were limited by the allowed area of signage.
Of course, I didn't print out that far.
It's in the corner of one of the drawings.
Yeah, I got it.
Also, I remember a note regarding the, I think it regards the marquee lighting. Is that the area that's non-continuous? Is that one of the LED lights? There's a lot of material to read. was not continuous. I remember a note to that effect, but I don't know what that comment belonged to.
I did see that note in the staff report. I think the intent with the lights is that they are going to be as continuous as possible
Okay.
to create a nice, even illumination that comes from that cove bracket and shines down upon the letters of the marquee.
Okay.
I believe that's where it was referring to. I saw that too.
Sometimes in an application like this, they'll mount them so they overlap ever so slightly, like
Right.
very small amount.
Right.
Very
So
small light.
they're non-continuous because they're separate units. They're-
Yeah, that might have been,
10-foot or a foot, must be a.
yeah. But the intent
30.
would be it would be an even illumination.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have more, Lisa?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you guys would like to add, y'all?
Sure. So I'm Chris Gage with Silent Architecture. I have Andrew here as well. We're here to answer any questions about the project, of course. Also with me is Sarah Coleman. She's the muralist, the design artist of the mural. She and I were presenting the mural previously at the PAC when we gained approval from the commissioners there, or from the committee there. Sarah's here to talk about any questions you have about the mural, about the maintenance, about the preparation, about the materials of it. And then also Selena Gritte is here from the Onyx Theater. I understand that there is an agenda. If possible, if we could move the mural more to the front of the agenda, that would be ideal. I think Sarah has some limited time today, but we'll do our best.
The architectural review approval is what we've launched into, so
Sure.
that's we've opened that file. So
Understood.
we'll
Okay.
go in sections as quickly as possible.
Okay, great, yeah. A couple clarifications. Thank you, again, thank you for the special meeting. Thank you for your description of the project, Lisa. A couple items I noted was the, let's see, so for the metal panels that are on the building themselves, there is downlighting. There's actually part of the metal panel. There's also going to be ceiling lighting. They'll be creating downlighting as well. But the metal panels and the lights and everything, they're all underneath the roof for the front patios. Another clarification is on that horizontal trellis, that little 12-inch tall trellis, the tubing, the pipes are intended to be half-inch diameter, so fairly small.
Round tubing?
Correct, yes. And then last but not least, I wanted to clarify on this, and maybe I'll get up here and point out. We've actually got a couple different types of exterior finishes. Of course, there's the stucco shown with little dots here. And then, as Lisa mentioned, we have the geometric, we're proposing the geometric perforated metal panel around the doors as shown. But then between the stucco and that perforated metal panel, per our original, I think, planning submittal back when that was approved, it's actually just intended to be a smooth metal panel. So we've got perforated metal panel, smooth metal panel, and then stucco. Just to clarify that.
Will the smooth metal panel be the same color as one or the other?
I think it's intended to be a gunmetal gray as previously approved in the recent, or the past.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
And the same finish for the perforated panel adjacent to them?
Actually, the perforated panels are intended to be a weatherized core tin finish, so they'll have a little bit more of a brownish kind of rusted appearance, so slightly different.
We managed to find a manufacturer who can make those in panels and put in the dimmable LEDs inside it. We were sort of working with a custom fabricated thing, but we seem to have found somebody who can help us out with that. So dimmable LEDs at the top and the sides.
For the doors, for the door surrounds.
Those door systems.
Yeah. But that said, I am glad to answer any questions or that are asked about the project. And again, thank you for meeting to discuss and review this.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. And, well, if anybody has questions, we can start from Peter's end.
I'm good for now, thank you.
I did have a question about the color temperature on the lights. I saw on the let's see, the tubes, I think, there were several color temperatures there. And I think the warmest one was 3,000 K. Later on, I think you were specifying a 2,700 K light. I they're both on the on the warmer end, which is great, but
Yeah.
it'd be great if they could, if you had the same color temperature on those. Was there, first I should ask, I assume that even though it wasn't specified, I assume you were going to do the 3,000 on those tubes, or what were you looking at there?
That is correct. I believe it was 3,000 on the tubes, and we're somewhat limited by the manufacturer's abilities on some of the lights. I think in general, we were going for an aesthetic for all the lights on the exterior of the building that have a sort of a soft, warm glow to them, something that's non-abrasive or not like in the higher ranges, up in the 5,000 or 6,000s. We wouldn't want something that bright. So that said, we did our best to find lights that were all kind of as close as possible and generating that warm glow, but there were some limitations.
Okay.
And back to that, there's a forthcoming dark sky ordinance that will affect, and it sort of makes sense to sort of comply with the standards of it now, but all exterior lighting should be 3,000 K or below or warmer.
Okay.
And just aesthetically, it seems to me that if the color temperatures match throughout the project, it has a more unified theme. But you guys are all covered in terms of design, so you know that.
Yeah, and as Chris mentioned, we're just faced with an issue where when somebody is prefabricating one of these things, they've got a preference for a particular light and so forth, so we'll work with them and see if we can get everything in alignment.
But it sounds like 3,000 is an option and that.
Right, so 3,000 may be the warmest option you've got.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely amenable to all of them being as close as possible, absolutely.
That it for questions for you?
Yes, it is.
In the representation of the new perforated metal for the brake area, it looks like wood grain. That's not your proposal, is it?
We are proposing metal. It does look wood, but the intent of those images was just to provide an understanding about what the patterns are, the geometric versus the
Right.
moss pattern. But yes, they are intended to be a weatherized metal, Corten, similar.
Right, so the wood grain effect was just an approximation of the color of weatherized.
It was a product that one of the designers located.
Yeah.
And the fabricator can replicate it.
In metal.
So it was our easiest illustration of the pattern, but not the
Right,
material.
but not the wood grain.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
no wood
so-
grain. Sorry, no wood grain.
Clarifying that, yeah, I figured, but
Yeah, good question.
it's good to ask.
asking.
Is these are both proposed to be Core 10?
Correct, yeah.
They're both going to match?
Yeah. As well as the panels that are integral to the building.
Well, I thought those were steel, you said, gray steel.
The perforated panels, Andrew's talking about the perforated panels that are integral to the building, and not the gunmetal panels that are
Oh, the gunmetal.
flat, that are also in the building. There's
There's a
several,
lot of panels.
there's quite a different, yeah.
What
quite
made
a
you feel
different
like
array
you
of
needed
finishes.
more panels in more patterns and
We felt like
colors?
there might be a few too many, so we took a couple off and put stucco on them. It started to feel a bit heavy.
I want to take the talking stick back for a second. I had a question about the perimeter lighting of the panel units. Does that just pertain to the tighter, the top and side illumination? Does that just pertain to the tighter pattern or the looser pattern in front as well?
It would be both, yeah. All of the perforated metal panels are intended to have the edge lighting and the down lighting. And then there's two different systems. The panel that goes on the wall is actually a manufactured product that has lighting that we're working through with the contractor or with the fabricator to get on the edge and the tops. And then the metal panels of the guardrails will be actually, that system will be fabricated, but very similar. We'll have LED lighting along the top and along the sides. That'll be shielded.
And similar to the little illustration on the marquee, they'd be within a shaped mounting that you couldn't see the source, only the effect.
Okay, I'll let go of the talking stick now.
I have no questions.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you. Other than the one I asked.
Any public comments? No, there isn't, because there's no one here, and
I thought I heard someone come in.
we're not taking comments on Zoom, so That handles the public comment phase of this part of the application. So,
Has the Zoom era kind of come to an end, or?
There, yeah,
Okay, just curious.
short answer, yes.
Cool,
there's a longer answer, too.
There is a much longer answer.
we're good.
You don't need to go in.
We'll stand out in the sun and talk about it.
Yeah, afterwards.
Discussion. Comments, discussion pertaining to architectural review. I'll start from Peter's end.
The detailed aside that you're just talking about, I think it hangs together quite well. It's gonna gussy up that corner, if I can use planning language, and so I think it's a go.
Yeah, same here. The changes are, in the big scheme of things, relatively minor. You know, I didn't see any dramatic changes there. Yeah, looking forward to this going forward.
I have a design-based question, just a question for my enrichment, perhaps.
Just for questions.
Which indicates a comment. Thank you.
Rhetorical question.
No, I appreciate you trying to keep me on track.
I gotta be vice chair, so.
Yeah, bring it.
Making it very special.
My question about is about the marquee and the way it's presented as part of the architecture. It's kind of an elaborate structure there that departs from the wonderful aesthetic of the neighborhood, where our sign ordinance allows for signs to be sitting on the edges of roofs with like supports and lights, and I'm wondering if you considered a more folksy approach rather than the architecturally integrated approach to housing the marquee.
You talking about the traditional, like, prow that sticks out from the building, like that?
No,
traditional?
in the neighborhood, the other businesses have, here's the roof edge, and then there's a sign like up
Yeah.
on the roof edge with
Flush.
little standards.
The ones across the street. for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that I believe are no longer allowed by ordinance?
No, they're,
No, it does say in our ordinance that
I'm sorry?
those, it does say in the ordinance that there's like a special section that says
Okay.
for the Argyle Way.
I see, okay.
yeah, in the Seven
I thought
Hills
they were prohibited.
Business District, there's special language for
Okay.
signs of that type. Because
Yeah.
I had the same question, so kind of looked it up. And it's a folksier feel. I have no real issue with the enclosure of the marquee. Only a feeling that it might be cute for it to be presented the other way. So I was just asking about if you, it's not even necessarily suggestion. I'm just curious if you had considered the
Quite
folksier
candidly, so much
approach.
time has passed, I really can't recall. I don't think we ever explored that, but I know that right now I would suggest that it's maybe, the only place for it would be further east on the Argyle frontage, and I think we just didn't feel like it related to the entrance as well as it could. I think we were also, erroneously now, steering away from like these roof-mounted signs, we looked for a way to integrate it, and that's what we came up with.
Right,
And
okay.
I think we're erroneously getting away from the roof-mounted thing, which will give it this will be yet another marker of its distinction from the other buildings in the neighborhood, whether that's good or bad, we can talk about it. I think that's why it ended up where it did.
Right.
I don't know if that's helping or not.
No, I don't know that there's any goal necessarily, except that,
Yeah.
rather than the elaborate nature of the enclosure of that thing,
Yeah.
to have us, right where it currently is, the roof line come down to the edge where it would otherwise with the
Yeah.
marquee propped up on sticks.
Yeah.
Okay, just asking.
No, I think it's a good question.
And I also, I feel that the framed, the lighting from all edges of the panels is less natural looking than just light from above. My preference would be for all those panels to be just lit from above. And I'm not pushing for it necessarily. Only that it looks like it would be more natural because light tends to come from above in nature. But I'm just playing designer here. And seeing if other commissioners have a similar impression.
It seems, my impression is the marquee would be most effective if it's lit from all sides. The other panels, I would say, I think it could look quite beautiful, that it's almost like being cast in light just from the top.
I think that's a good summary. I
Agreed.
agree with Wendy's take on it. I think that, having the theater logo, illuminated from the top gives just that effect, and yet having the movie times, et cetera, surrounded calls that out.
Just to clarify, my understanding is that the marquee light just comes from above.
That's right.
And
Okay. I had it reversed.
the perimeter lighting that I'm talking about is of the perforated metal panels at the guardrails and
Okay. I
in the break
misunderstood.
area.
I misunderstood.
I definitely would not prefer that every side of every metal panel was illuminated.
Okay, yeah. I appreciate your comment, though, about the marquee illuminating it. You're saying.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that the lighting is proposed the way that it was is because I have a hard time visualizing how a sign light coming from the side can be shielded. So if it's pointing out, then it's pointing light out
I guess
rather than down.
you're talking about for the marquee? I guess my assumption is the same lip that is hiding the top one, casting it back. So my impression is you have a metal lip that is pushed out, and the light is actually reflecting off the back,
Yeah.
right? And so wouldn't it just do that on everywhere, or?
Yes and no, because if it's pointing this way and you're over here.
No, it's always pointing back. It's never pointing,
Oh, so
it's
back.
always pointing
I
against
see.
the back, no matter where it's located. So like if this, let me build it. If this is the front of the marquee, the light doesn't project this way, it projects that way, but it does it
Yeah.
everywhere.
But at a slight angle.
I don't know how much angle it needs, but it's,
assume.
yeah. I mean, so the reason I'm thinking of this is because I have a display cabinet in my store that I have affixed LED lighting to the front face of it pointing back to illuminate everything inside. So it doesn't look at customers' eyes when they're trying to look in the case. So I think it's kind of the same idea.
Into the discussion of the lighting of the marquee, I actually like the lighting from the
Top
top.
down.
It casts shadows on the letters. It looks very analog and historic-y.
I
I prefer the top lighting and
Right now, the marquee is just top.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, right now, the marquee is just proposed with top lighting.
I like that.
What are the,
Personally.
remind me what the letters are made out of, because,
They're made of, I believe it's like a clear kind of Lexan material, and the black is actually printed on them. They're rectangular. and-
so they're not dimensional.
No, they're not, actually.
So there's no shadows.
Yeah,
Which is
they-
better,
well-
because it would be hard to read with
There's
Yeah,
a thin
shadows.
channel that they
Shadows would
slip
actually be a
into,
problem.
and they're
Yeah.
held in place that way. I don't know if they make, or I don't know if this system allows for dimensional letters, or if, I'm not sure if they're available still, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's not a preference per se, but,
But there will be shadow lines from the little channels that hold the letters, so there'll be some visual interest there. It's coming from the upward facing, or the downward facing lights that are above the marquee. So there'll be a little bit of a shadow interest there.
I think it's a romantic effect.
Yeah.
Those are all the planters, the new planters are just boxes, just
Correct.
welded corners from the same Corten.
Yes, yeah, the idea of the very small ones up high just wasn't working technically for the landscape architect, and we should have given that a little bit more thought, so we've given them some height and some depth. They're probably not going to be filled with soil like the entire height, because they just don't really need that much, but that seemed to be a better way to do it. And then, to their credit, the owner kind of looked at the opposite side, the wall facing the parking lot, and said, gee, that could really use something. And so we just replicated that same approach there, well, a similar approach. And there'll be a pattern of lights hidden in the eave in between those to, you know, make it look like it was thought out rather than just cast out there.
It's a good solution. And it's Star Jasmine that?
On the front, facing Argall, it's Star
On
Jasmine.
those arbors, on those, whatever they are, lattices.
Yeah, and I think it's a slightly different species on the parking lot side because there's nothing really to climb on.
Coriander plant, typical, no.
I think it's sticky monkey flower, I'm not sure.
Sticky monkey flower.
I think you're right.
I think that's what she's calling for.
Karen knows what she's doing, I think.
Yeah, and there's a Planet of the Apes movie that comes out every 3 years, so, you know, it ties into that.
Current,
They're not monkeys.
the box office.
Oh, that's right, they're not monkeys, okay.
Wow, that was very
Simians?
tangential, yeah.
That's just the way I...
Yeah.
We're going to have a reunion
It's not my
every 3
official,
years.
comment. Is there any will on the part of the commission to weigh in on the perimeter lighting of the expanded or perforated metal?
Should we,
What do you mean by that question?
Yeah, maybe.
Clarify the question.
Is anyone else a little less than enthusiastic about the panels, the perforated panels surrounded by light?
I think Wendy already expressed an opinion on
yeah, I think the three of us already agreed that we think it would look best top down and the marquee fully peripherally lit. Peter, you too?
Yeah.
Thinking more, I'm honestly indifferent, so,
Okay. Okay.
On all of it, or on the marquee, or? all of
on
it?
the panels.
The panels.
Should we continue comment?
Discussion?
Well, we did the three of you, and
Oh, please, yes.
I just want to say that I think that you guys have done a marvelous job of designing the exterior of this. I know it hasn't been easy. And I'm inclined to hear you out on whatever it is that you think is going to make your business succeed, because that's really what we want here. I personally like the way the marquee is. I think the marquee should be a marquee however we can fit it in with our guidelines. And I, to reiterate, think it would be, I think it would work well if you had a fully peripheralized LED projection that didn't cast any kind of glare, but I also know that this is a bit of a new thing, and I want to find a way of leaving room for you to fix something if it doesn't work out the way we're thinking it is. And I hope that,
What do you mean by that?
well, like say we go ahead and we pass this where the intention is only to have it cast from above, and then they find out that there's some kind of glare or something that doesn't really work well, that we're not anticipating now. And that maybe it works better with illumination from below as well. It would be nice if we didn't have to come back and rediscuss it again, and maybe give them a little bit of leeway to like make sure that it works, maybe give a liaison. That's what I mean.
That's what I was
Gotcha.
thinking,
Yep,
liaison.
that'd be a good way to do
Yeah.
that.
Then the liaison can talk to,
I also think
Staff.
that with the marquee, I like the aesthetic of the perforated metal next to it. I almost feel like it takes away a little bit from the strip mall qualities that it has, but I also think that you guys have been thinking about it harder. I just wanted to lay that out there in case whatever was pushing you one way or the other to change that. And my last comment is that with this heat wave that we're experiencing this week in particular, I'm thinking about those poor plants in that metal box that are going to be on that sidewalk. And it sounds like whoever is designing this knows what they're doing, but I just worry that you're going to have some really cooked plants. And if there's a way of thinking about that to protect to make sure that the investment in aesthetic and plants that you have are able to live. No one wants to see a dead fried plant. And I have no recommendations there. I'm just throwing it out there. And I'm done.
It's assumed that the landscape architect has considered the correct volume to insulate the soil from, and drainage and the whole bit. She's got that
We'll
worked
bring
out.
up that point with her. I don't know that we specifically talked about that concept, but we'd be happy to discuss that with her. I could see a non-degradable, like liner inside that thing that could probably address that. If she says, oh yeah, that's a real concern, you ought to do something about it, I could see
Okay.
us fabricating that thing in such a way that it's like a double wall, like a cooler.
Yeah, if it were me, I would just want to think about it or have that conversation.
Yeah, I think she's probably going to say, like, if it were this temperature 6 months out of the year, it probably wouldn't do so well. She'll probably respond like that. But since it's only confined to certain periods, at least now, but we'll specifically address that question with her and say, hey, are you aware of how this thing's going to get heated up, and is it the right species?
And again, if there's any like small aesthetic departure from the design you presented here, that could be handled with a liaison and not have to come back to the full
Yeah.
commission for, we need to add a band, or we need to add legs or something like that.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
easily approved.
Great.
Anything that would became necessary. Because obviously the theater operator wouldn't want dead plants in front either. No.
Yeah, those are going to get roasted. There's no
Are they
two
on
ways about it.
irrigation?
Sorry?
They're going to be automatically irrigated?
They will
Yes.
have automatic irrigation. And we did actually increase the size of them from the last iteration we had for the sake of protecting the plants and giving them some sort of thermal mass for the plant medium, or for the planting medium, rather, to absorb heat and allow the plants to thrive.
We went to the landscape architect, and she was a little less than satisfied with the volume we were giving her, so we addressed that. That's
Well-
that's part of why they got taller, is
Yeah.
to give the roots an opportunity.
I mean, in my opinion, the new planters add aesthetically. Yeah. Make the parking lot look better.
I mean, just to maybe to opine a little bit further, I wonder if there is a way of digging into the sidewalk and getting the actual earth to grow up.
Well, they're
Like
3
it's-
feet tall, though. Their roots won't, those plants won't have roots that deep, will they?
Star jasmine?
You think?
Wait, no, I'm talking about the ones up front underneath the marquee.
Oh, gotcha, like the sidewalk ones?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because that's going to be a more stable temperature. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but star jasmine will climb, and that would definitely make it easier on you, but that's just an idea I'm throwing out.
I'm trying to think of what it's going to climb on.
The perforated
But we
metal.
could definitely talk to her about that as well.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll pass it to Wendy.
Well, I think I'm going to be consistent with some of my comments last time, which is probably my own personal design aesthetic, coupled with reflecting on your neighbors and the simplicity of the architecture surrounding you. Some of that simplicity is not necessarily like mind-blowing beautiful. So I'm very excited about this project, and I echo what Amy said in terms of just all the thought that you've put into making this really special. There's a lot of whimsy. It feels classy and those types of things. And also, again, going back to my own simple aesthetic, I still don't understand the two different patterns of the metal. I don't know how that enhances your design. So I would just personally choose one or the other, or even the more geometric one that kind of has less and less smaller cutouts, right? That's kind of more gradient. Choosing the biggest gradient part of that as your other panel. There's a lot going on with the building. There's a lot of different changes in roof pitch. There's, you have many different building materials. In my opinion, when you choose your metal, just pick one, because you're already using that in conjunction with stucco and, tile, roofing, and there's just so many things going on. The metal tubing now, what color is that? So that, I go back to that input. And I'll just reiterate also, in reflection of the neighborhood, I think it's really cool that this building could effectively glow, and to be sensitive about how much it does glow, right? And so not illuminating the panels all around, the building, top down. It's kind of will guide your customers, your guests, to the building, like a little beacon that glows. I do have a little bit of interest too, I should have asked this earlier, about your sign strategy per se. So you get a lot of signage because you have a lot of frontage, and I'm curious how you decided to use that. What was it about filling empty spaces? Was it about using every bit of square footage that was available to you? Was it about truly identifying, the places where visibility could be enhanced and people could find you easier? What was the sign objective, I guess? Can anyone answer that?
I think it was a little bit of all that, actually. We're working with some of the existing signage, the Onyx Theater that's on the gable in there. And because we have the other gable in facing Argyle, it seemed like a nice kind of continuity of the design already, the existing, to have another sign there. There's another sign that hasn't been talked about too much, but it's the directional parking sign. It's a small sign, more of a utilitarian municipal style sign, but it was brought into the project because it was felt that that back parking lot that faces onto, or that drives on the Searles, rather, was kind of being forgotten or overlooked by a lot of clientele, a lot of guests to the theater. So that was added in there to bring everyone's attention. That said, it seemed as though that was enough signage at the time to kind of present the theater to the neighborhood and to the passersby. Not just the theater, but also the parking. So that's, I think, kind of the idea.
I think those gables gave us the only opportunity because everything else was either roof or wall.
I'm wondering if, and Lisa, you'd have to help me out with what's exactly allowed, but did you consider like a small monument sign that says Onyx by your parking lot instead of a utility sign that says park?
We did, actually.
Okay.
We did, and we found it difficult to fit this a monument sign that'd be visible from a car.
Yeah.
And on the ground, and have enough height for people to be able to see it, and still be small enough to fit within the allowable area for the whole project, without reducing one of the other two gable end signs to being so small that you really couldn't see them anymore.
couldn't read it.
So we got pretty far with the monument sign idea, but it got to a point where we realized it wasn't going to work to have two gable end signs and the large monument sign we wanted. So that's why we basically turned the monument sign into the wayfinding directional sign. It's
Gotcha.
smaller.
And just chewing on this with you.
Sure, that's true.
Would you get enough square footage if you removed theater from the new sign? Because I think the fact that there's a marquee already tells everyone, like, this is a movie theater. And are those a waste of words and square footage and a sign that's actually, again, more beautiful to guide people to your parking lot to say, like, this belongs to us?
I think the word theater was really important to our client to have that in the signage. Feel free to speak up, Celine, if you want to talk to me about it.
Sorry.
I will note, though, that the theater portion of that sign is 6 inches by 6 feet. So it's really only going to give us, I think, like, what is that, about 3 square feet of signage, which is a little bit, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been, yes, I think the marquee will help to make it clear that it's a theater. That's been an issue for us as long as we've been there, is people not knowing what it looks like a nightclub, a bar,
These
a
people
restaurant.
not have Google?
I mean, and so realizing that we really needed a sign that said theater. But the same with like the Magic Theater, people asked if we did magic shows. So it's all those elements together that I think are, what is going to help our guests to fully understand what is in this space. So what Chris said, the main thing is if we take the word theater out, we're not really gaining much in terms of size to be able to make a change to the parking sign. Mm-hmm. It would mean taking the whole sign off altogether, I think, before we would have the room to be able to make a monument sign large enough to be able to get all that information across, that it's the Onyx Theater and this is parking. Because also that parking, even on Friday nights and Saturday nights, is more than 50% empty, even though we're sold out. So people realizing that there's parking back there connected to a theater is important.
Yeah,
So there's an electrical pole and
Yeah.
some mailboxes
Yeah.
and a lot of visual clutter.
Yeah.
Like right where you would probably want
Put it.
a sign like that.
and so then how does the parking sign help? Does it,
It's a little bit taller than the marquee sign, or than the monument sign was going to be. And it, I think it's kind of speaking in a sign vocabulary that is very familiar to drivers, to passersby. It looks very much the same proportions that a parking sign would have, or, some sort of indicator that I think as drivers we're all sort of trained to see, and we're going to place it at that approximate height as well. So that was the intent, was making a sign there that's higher, clearer, and is familiar to drivers of, all very other similar type of signs, for their wayfinding and for their knowing how to operate their vehicles, to say, hey, here's a parking lot.
gotcha, cool. I think the last comment I have is just wishing for some clarity, however the lighting shakes out in terms of what is the plan, and not just in terms of Kelvin, the color, but also how bright it is, and how far out it casts probably. If the whole building's lit up, it seems like it's going to do something in the neighborhood, and there still are residences in proximity there, people. And also like the schedule for the lighting, if it's what your plan is for that. So those are my comments.
I also had just a question about there's a lot of lighting, and I was just questioning about I had a question about what is the overall luminosity of this
Yeah.
installation? How brightly will it glow? It won't be missed because of the architecture, and we I just don't know that we have a way to measure that. That's a concern, though. And just going back to lighting, the porch lighting, let's call it the porch, I guess, the overhang, that has spots in its ceiling diaphragm or plane, right?
Correct, yeah, the covered patios on
Right.
the front.
And then are there wall wash lights all along as well?
At this time, we actually have, I think, per the previous Planning Commission review, I think there was lights shown on the exterior face, like along the gutter line, essentially, that were cast downwards for safety purposes. And then you're asking about the lights that are inset into the ceiling. I don't think we're having any wall wash lights at this time, although I think some of those lights in that ceiling of the covered patio, they may project onto the wall, specifically like on the side where there's the 3 planters.
Right, there'll be just kind of
Yeah, exactly. There might be a
a
cone
cone
light.
shape kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
displayed on there. So there's a perimeter light on the inside of the head, or as it were, inside the porch overhang?
Yes, actually, I think it's on, they're shown on the outside. If you look at elevation A 5.1, they're noted surface mounted light typical. And you'll see them there above every other column on that front facade. And then, actually, you'll see there's another one on elevation A52 above the geometric metal panels that are outside of the staff lounge area.
Oh, I see them in the elevations. Okay.
Overall, though, as I mentioned, the intent of the external illumination is to provide a warm glow, not something that's not harsh, not too bright, and that's not going to be an annoyance, and that will be dark sky compliant, that will be shielded, so passersby aren't seeing the direct lumens, or the direct filaments, if you will.
On that note, after the theater closes down, will some of these lights be turned off?
Yes, they will. I think we,
That's the dark sky component.
I think we've actually got most of the lights on timers, actually. So I think between, I think it's like dawn to dusk.
Once the staff leaves, there will be
Yeah.
lights that will remain on as long as staff is there for safety purposes.
But of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after that,
Yeah. Well, when they're on, people know where it is.
Yeah.
We already know where it is.
Yeah, but they know there's people there and there's people inside, and it's, yeah, it's running.
But we will be reading what the name of the movies are. so.
Yeah. Still be-
Lisa, what are you pulling
So
up?
I'm pulling up the plans from
Oh,
last
the
year.
lights.
And if I remember correctly, these downlights were approved. So I would have to check the motion to verify, but I don't remember them being omitted. I know they were discussed. So this shows all the different angles here. This will obviously change because of what's being submitted in the mural application.
Yeah, this
So
one
this
changes.
wall changes.
This one changes as well to ones that are hidden.
Mhm.
Chris, I don't know, are we still showing like, I don't think we're still showing like fascia mounted or anything.
We're not showing the fascia mounted on that one portion, because now there'll be ceiling mounted lights on the overhang. They illuminate the three new planters on that one elevation I just pointed to.
This will no longer be the case either, this one here. That one was an attempt to light the marquee label. It's just these ones that are on the fascia.
Right, it's coming back to me. I remember we discussed that the possibility of parking lot lights on the street side. We discussed
Yeah.
that. We went through that, and it was determined from your end that lighting as shown was, I'm sure it's in the approval, but I'm recalling that. Recalling it was parking lot lighting on the street side shining inward versus this. Yeah, we weighed all that out. Just rebooting myself on it. So to recap exterior lighting, there are lights in the ceiling of the porches, and then those shown in the elevations above intermittent posts, and that's it for exterior lighting.
This is now reminding me that there is a freestanding light in that south property line over those parking stalls.
Correct.
So there is one freestanding one.
Oh, okay.
And there's other lights on the outside in the mural application. We have some added lights on the very top of the Cyril's facing gable that are intended to be inside of the overhang of the roof, so they're not visible from passersby, but they'll be illuminating back onto the mural to illuminate the mural.
Right.
So for your previous approval, there was some lighting submitted here. But from what I'm hearing, what's being proposed may not be this, right?
That appears to be the ones that would be in the soffit, like over the seating areas of the patios. Just
Correct.
looking at the
Yeah.
design of it. So those would still be in the ceiling above like the seating areas in the patio.
Okay.
That particular light right there.
So ceiling mounted lights and which others can you, I know the gable end mural lights.
Correct.
And there's one more,
There's the parking lot light.
the parking lot light?
Yeah.
And then there's the light hidden in the eaves that shines down on the south wall of the east wing facing the parking
Which parking lot?
lot.
That
The
would
parking
be-
lot on the south side of it, L.
The backside.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
shining down, hidden within the eave, but shining down between those planters.
Okay.
And the east wall?
The entry, right?
East, that's the proposed mural side, correct?
No, this is.
Actually.
No, that's the mural because it
mural
goes
side's up on
into the
right.
sidewalk.
Yeah. This, so this is the mural side right here.
Right.
This is where we actually have two little roof soffits that come out. There'll be downlighting in those. And then this, the mural's there. This is where there'll be there'll be some linear lights up here in this overhang of the roof. They're projecting back towards the mural that's on that wall. Over here, there's an entrance and there's a recessed entry, basically vestibule, and there will be a ceiling, like similar to something like this, or like that you have from the Sumo, the country that was down there, that's over that door as well. Under the roof, all the lights are under the roof. If that helps.
Yes.
So I think you should be clear with conditions on the lighting, as far as, timers and maybe even stating a change in the previously approved lighting plan to the new proposed lighting, that's the lighting that's now proposed. So the ceiling mounted lights, the eave, and then the special lighting for the gable end wall mural.
Can you add that to any motion that comes from us? Can you add that, or shall we?
Yes, it seems mostly consistent, but it seems like it's been just kind of brought down a little bit to me. Does that seem right to you?
As far as, the brightness, yeah.
Okay, like, so on the Argyle side, do you think that there will be, this is all ceiling, right? So it could potentially be that bright.
That's certainly not my vision for it. That looks like those ceiling lights are doing a lot more work than I anticipated.
Yeah, and there
Can
will
I-
be
But
railings
I
along
think
the
what's
front
being
there.
illustrated there is their distribution pattern, not so much their intensity.
Can I jump in?
They modulate the way that they depict this so that you can read where the wash of the light will be.
Right, and then there'll be new lights on the down lights on the panels, and then the down lights on the
Yeah,
railing.
At guardrail height, there would be the downlights on the panels,
Yeah.
and then there'd be the fascia-mounted parking lot lights in essence.
At the risk of being really unpopular, because we all are excited about this project and it's been a long time coming, I personally feel like it's very gray to try to say theoretically what the lighting plan is, and would feel more comfortable if there was a really clear, concise lighting plan
Well,
with
the-
fixtures, with
Yeah,
output,
revised
with,
photometric and a lighting plan would be crafted as part of our final set of drawings.
Yeah.
That's acceptable, and it would go through.
Could that be something that could go through a liaison?
I think so. That's
Absolutely.
fine with me, but-
Yeah, yeah, because that photometric will get changed, and it'll be part of our final set.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm hearing that looking at this, you might want to change the distribution of the
I'm just
recessed
saying
lights.
that- I'm just commenting that I didn't ever envision like the lights that are in the soffit of the seating area having quite that effect. I mean, that's
Like such hot spots.
Yeah.
Spotlights.
Yeah, it's kind of a hot spot, and I think when they're doing these depictions, I could be totally wrong, but I think they've got to change the contrast a little bit so that you can all sit 30 feet away from it and understand what's being proposed. But the reality is that the numbers on this photometric are really what's happening. And I don't think that's the look the owner's going for either. We're looking for something a little bit more subtle, where the building's architecture and the marquee take a little bit more center stage than the lighting of those. We're looking for sort of a subtle restaurant level of lighting in there, if you will.
More of a glow.
Is that a fair capture of that?
Yes.
It's pretty subtle.
We currently have lights under there, and they don't look like that. I mean, they illuminate the area, but they don't look the way that they were.
Right, which might have something to do with the color. That's essentially a dark gray wall with white light next to it, and that's not the color scheme that currently exists.
If I can just throw one more thing in there, are these lights that are going to be on the outside, will they be dimmable?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's probably,
The answer.
I think that's the answer that we can probably move forward with, because I think that,
Yeah, but you think it would be a good idea to do another photometric study for your purposes, or for a liaison for final approval?
Well, I would plan that the photometric would be part of the construction documents. I mean, that's always my anticipation. When we've got one working its way through the planning review, I make it part of the final if one was commissioned.
And since you're looking
I
for,
don't think the accent lights, find their way into this analysis. I don't know.
you mean the
marquee
perforated
light?
panel lighting?
Yeah.
That type of stuff
Yeah.
Right.
doesn't find its way into this
Right.
kind of photometric study. But I would I propose to keep the photometric study alive, no matter what the lighting does,
Yeah.
and make them consistent with one another throughout the construction documents. I'm not sure if that's addressing your concern.
It all generally illuminates the question. Come on, a little smile.
All right.
All right. Amy mentioned dimmer, and I can probably rely on the fact that you guys are looking for a smooth, subtle effect, that we're all kind of after the same thing. And yet, it's up to us to verify that what we have in mind gets carried out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps, let's see, I don't know if there's a binding way to like mandate a dimmer setting.
Yeah.
No, and then you can't guarantee it, no offense, but like staffing, you never know if a staff just,
I mean, the only thing I would add to this is we are a known entity. Like, we already exist in terms of what our design aesthetic is, and this is, we have no interest and we never have in flash and glare and, circus type of atmosphere. We're not changing, into something different. This is just an extension of what the Onyx has already put out there. And so for me, the lighting is definitely about mood, which bright lights and high-intensity lights do not fit in with that, balanced with safety. Because the parking lot, Argyle Way, Seven Hills does not have a lot of really good lighting at night. And we are a nighttime business. We're open during the day, but we're definitely open at night with customers that are not necessarily, even I have a hard time seeing, making sure I don't trip on the little parking curbs in our parking lot at night. So that's where, I understand what you're bringing up in terms of like wanting to have something really specific set in stone in terms of how bright that would be. I don't know exactly how we would do that, I guess, other than, you taking it on faith that we're just continuing with the aesthetic we already have, and we also want the space to be safe.
And so thank you for making that statement. And also, this is an opportunity to clarify for the public, if anybody watches these videos, I assume we all like your business very much and your aesthetic, and our job is to advocate for the public and make sure that it's not just a trust situation, it's also a trust and verify situation. So that's our job.
May I'm sorry, I'm like crawling out of my skin right now.
We're sorry. Please speak.
Please don't.
Just because I think that there's a way that we can have this conversation without going to every single possibility. Surely we have a set of parameters defined by our dark sky compliance and our guidelines, correct? And if we can just agree that you will keep your lighting totals within those parameters, and in the meanwhile also have the option for your own business sake to have it dimmable, can we set up a...
do those parameters limit the number of fixtures? I think it defines a fixture, but if you put enough of a qualified fixture up, then the outcome of that is not really dark sky, per se.
Is
right?
it, I don't know, because I don't have the guidelines or the documents.
Right,
in
or
front
it
of me.
might not be fitting for the neighborhood. I mean, I do think that even with great lighting that is downcast and glowing, that if there's enough of it, then it becomes very different than,
There is an objective standard in the section that pertains to business lighting in zoning code that has to do with, or there's an actual objective measurement of
Right.
how much
light output,
candles
Yeah,
basically.
I think
Yeah.
what you're referencing is that it's, the way that it reads is, no lighting on private property shall produce an illumination level greater than 1 foot candle on any property within a residential zone, except on the site of the light source. So maybe that doesn't apply
Yeah.
because we're not in a residential zone.
Is there a way that we can pass this on to a liaison so we don't have to figure it all out right now?
Yeah, I do think so. And, updating the photometric plan
Yeah.
Yeah.
and submitting that,
Yes.
I think would be a good condition of approval. But like Celine said, getting all those little, side or top lit light around the edgelit thing might be a little bit tough. I would imagine the photometric designer would kind of balk at that, say like these side of,
Yeah, I think with all of the potential details here, I agree, it's important. And I also think that we can really get lost
yeah.
in the weeds for hours on this one.
I think we're not lost in the weeds, though we are in them.
I said we can get.
Yes, okay.
And I would prefer not to.
And I would guess that the LED accent light on the perforated panels would not contribute to.
I don't think it has the capability.
Right, it's
Yeah.
probably very, very low wattage.
I don't know if I agree. Did anybody ever see the LED lights in the windows of Lefties when it was there?
Uh-huh.
It was atrocious.
Not shielded.
They were not shielded.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they were
So,
just
Yeah,
right there.
I don't actually know, I
Yeah.
don't know the details of what that would look like.
But for design purposes, I would imagine that a photometric study, a revised photometric study would show what the spread would potentially be.
I'm in favor of that. That was what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Good.
So that ought to be enough.
yeah.
That we handle with a liaison.
Okay,
And then, I was just talking to Celine that we'd like to make those we can and will make those lighting controls part of a system that really only management has access to, not the whole staff. It's automated. I mean, it's going to be programmed. Gee, that's a little bright. Let's take it back down again. Okay, we're good. And then it knows to do everything every day for
That's
ever.
slick. We're
Well,
still doing this.
So we're going to end up with a general plan of lighting, right? It's going to be written. And if somebody turns all those dials up and it turns into, then that would be in violation, and then we have ways of going and saying, turning them down, right? Don't we? We'll state,
it'd be a
we're
little,
going to write down what you're telling us. Okay, that sounds good, actually. And if that gets violated, then we can go back and say, no, turn them down.
if
Yeah.
the fixtures that you choose.
And I like the way you do it, by the way. It doesn't scream out at us,
Yeah.
Yeah, if the fixtures that you choose have a max of a 3,000 Kelvin temperature and max lumen, then the photometric plan can analyze it at the max, and then it can also analyze it at the preferred, and the liaison could see all of that and recognize that it's, okay at the preferred, and is it okay at the max?
Yeah, and then actually see it when it's installed. And
It seems like it would be great to just make it so that the max was allowable
Right,
and not more than that. And then if they want to dim it less, then that's on,
that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
getting at.
yeah.
So Celine, tell me the lighting now at the Onyx, do you have lighting on 24 hours, or do the staff turn it off when they go home?
The lighting that's outside under the eaves right now, I believe stays on, I believe that stays on 24 hours.
It does.
Because I've had to go back and pull up security camera footage from a theft that happened across the street. And they walked right underneath right in front of our front door. And I was able to get good footage of them because that area was lit. So that is one. I don't necessarily have a particular preference about that, but I do think, it has served itself as a security factor in an area that isn't really that well-traveled, late at night or in the middle of the morning, or that well-lit.
And your backlit sign is on always too, I think?
I believe so. Those are not staff-controlled.
Uh-huh.
They're controlled from one of the PG&E timers.
Yeah. And maybe something just, again, to be cohesive with the neighborhood. You can maybe even do alternating circuits, right? Where if your main lighting right now, you're leaving on at night, every other light turns off, like one switch does every other light.
I don't know if that
depending on-
technology exists,
Oh,
but
it
I don't
does.
have an issue with
Yeah,
that.
it's just how you wire it.
Yeah.
Well, you can also use motion sensors.
Yeah, yeah.
Typically, dark sky ordinances have, after working hours, things shut off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
typically part of it.
that's one of the ideas of moving towards that, of having less
Just turn 'em
lighting in
off.
the middle of the night, or changing it to be motion censored.
Yeah.
It's part of
Better.
the ecosystem effects and then the overall sky glow.
And I'll add that sign lighting in the sign ordinance is the area that relates to signs, that sign lighting should be turned off after business hours, just, that's in the code.
Yeah.
Security lighting currently, well, like the elevation across the street has very blaring light, shines out brightly all night long. And your lighting as security lighting is way less intrusive than that. Under dark skies, that might be required to change after the phase-in
Right.
process. But I see the practical reason to have those soffit lights on, at least some of them, 24 hours.
Or you could have a motion censored
Or
by
motion
the
sensor as well.
security.
Yeah, that's a good
Motion
idea.
censored makes
So I
a
think you
lot of
should be
sense.
clear on your motion of any conditions surrounding timers or motion sensors. If you like, that is definitely under your purview, and we don't have a lot of conditional use permits in the Seven Hills District. So I do see that this will be, sort of a light intense site, or a little bit light intense compared to some of the other surrounding uses.
So motion sensors would be acceptable?
If
to
that
you?
exists, like the technology exists to be able to make the ones that are underneath, I'm completely fine with that. I just think it's an area where we would want motion sensors once staff left the building.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa, for that.
Yeah, same thing, it could be reviewed by the liaison.
So in the liaison's purview might be, wow, we saw the photometric study, but it's really, really bright. Can we bring it down some?
Well, would it be really, really bright, or would it be a numerical comparison
Right.
of standards?
I think the
I don't-
latter.
Yeah, I don't know that it would be like a judgment call.
Yeah, right, that'd be sort of onerous
I think that,
for
I
the
think that,
liaison to be in a bad mood and want to make the
Yeah.
Onyx suffer for it. We wouldn't want that to happen.
That would not be in our
We
best
wouldn't want that
interest.
to
now I'm smiling.
We want this to be a success.
That I find humorous.
Flagship.
I think that
A numeric, an objective measurement.
objective.
Yeah.
And I think that, when something's dimmed or not dimmed or dimmed halfway and so forth, that really lends itself to like, gee, we've talked this over and we really think you ought to consider taking that down by 10% or something like that. That certainly is something that could be discussed. It's just not going to show up on the photometric, that's all.
That ought to be sufficient.
I was just gonna say, rest assured, these people are into mood lighting.
Yeah.
More than any other business anywhere in this county.
We're just
Right.
into mood.
Yeah.
They're not gonna,
Right. Trusting and verifying.
yeah.
Okay, we might be at the point of a motion if anyone is
Good,
interested
because I
in.
have to leave in a few minutes,
Uh-huh.
so I would like to be part of that vote. Lisa, can you summarize the?
Well, somebody has to make the motion, but.
I'll make the motion.
No,
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take a
So
stab at it.
if you look at your staff report, there's three
at the end.
findings, A, B, and C, for the site plan, architectural review, and the signage. And then the added conditions were for potentially for the applicant to provide an updated photometric plan or study to be reviewed by a liaison, and that timers, or if you wanted to include anything about timers and motion sensors.
Okay, I'll motion to approve as written in the staff report with the added D, finding that the applicant include into their lighting plan motion sensor, what were the?
So you'll want to require an updated photometric plan that analyzes the lighting as proposed with the, down lighting on the panels and the edge lighting. I do remember discussion about not wanting edge lighting.
Yeah.
So you'll want to say something about that.
You know what, actually, I'm gonna back out of this. My brain is just garbled right now with the lights.
So maybe we could just summarize it before we try to make a motion. So I think the summary of changes or conditions that I heard were that the lights be on an automatic timer, so that the exterior lights are on an automatic timer so they turn off after the staff leaves. Motion lights would be permissible.
On the soffit lighting,
In the soffit lighting only? Is that what we're saying?
yes.
Okay.
After hours.
Yeah, and,
Maybe the parking lot lighting also, if it's a security thing. I think motion sensor there is
Okay.
applicable as well.
okay.
You getting that, Lisa?
Do they make motion sensor parking
Yeah,
lots? I don't think so.
No, they do.
They do.
They do?
We
They
talked
do.
about it in our parking lot discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And then the other thing was omitting the LED perimeter lighting on the metal panels except for the tops. So the sides
The
and bottom.
downlighting you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about the metal panels.
Oh.
Rather than being illuminated on all four sides,
Oh,
they
I
would just
gotcha.
be coming
Okay.
from the top. I
On-
think there
on
was alignment.
Both the wall and the railing, or just the railing?
I definitely think the railing,
both.
both.
I think it was both. And flexibility to shift the marquee lighting from top down to top, bottom, and sides, depending on what works best.
Depending on the needs of the applicant?
Well, depending on the outcome, like if it doesn't look good, if it's just top down.
Right, so they have the option to do full perimeter lighting if that would serve them better.
Yes.
Well said.
And remaining within dark sky compliant guidelines.
Well, that's the lighting study, basically, right? Isn't
Well, I
it?
guess I would just want to like
Is it photo- Yeah.
clarify.
Well, one's clarifications and the other one's a study, so.
It's a lighting, I think the lighting study is part of that, but it's more the operation as well, too.
Gotcha.
And the whole idea that, you're only limiting during actual operational hours and for what's needed.
And within a certain amount of lumens or,
Perfect.
great, and that's it?
Nobody
And
else had concern about the panels, just me, again.
I think so.
Panels?
Just the number of different types of panels.
I'd like to answer that, maybe for your benefit from I hope I've got this right, that in the break area where the tighter pattern provides privacy to the people in the break area, whereas the more open design does not provide privacy.
I think what Wendy
What I
was
was
saying
saying
is
was
that,
take that pattern on the top where it's very open, use that in place of the other organic one.
Okay,
So
streamline it.
just,
right. I think you might be the only one, I mean,
yeah.
I have no problem with multiple patterns.
yeah.
Okay.
We're on the same location.
What
And
else did we talk
finally,
about?
that a liaison will be assigned to work with the applicant. On any unexpected,
Any unexpected,
any unexpecteds.
including review of the lighting study.
Okay.
Everybody?
Does anybody
Rob, is
want to
there
start
something-
with a
No,
simple
there's not.
motion and I can help with the conditions?
I'll start with the simple motion of moving to approve the application as written in the staff report with D, all items listed regarding lighting.
Okay, including conditions requiring an updated photometric plan or study to be reviewed by a liaison, timers, motion censored lights allowed in the soffit eve.
Parking lot?
And parking lot. Exterior lights shall be off after business hours. No edge lit on metal panels, both on the wall and the railing. Flexibility with the marquee sign approval with the option to do full perimeter lighting around the sign if desired or needed, reviewed by the liaison. And
I think
the lighting study should include the specifications for these items concerning lighting with timers and motion sensors.
I think the clarification of the edge lit was, of the panels was top only.
So top only for the panels.
And I would also change lights shall be off after hours except for motion sensor.
I think she got that.
No, she had two different items there. That there was the option for motion sensor and lights shall be off, and just to avoid any confusion, motion sensor lights can be on after hours.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yes. That's the motion.
That was a motion.
I second.
Okay.
Commissioner Ermshar?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good timing on my appointment, so thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
Carry
Thank you.
on.
Now we have a
So
mural.
happy this is happening,
Peter?
so thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Next for the Onyx is the review of the mural application.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Peter.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm glad you're here for the beginning.
I'll see you someday, Peter.
Aw. Okay,
Maybe one of these
so,
days I'll do 4 movies in one day.
so the next item on the agenda is the review for the mural for the Onyx Theater, which is proposed on the east gable end wall that faces Searles Avenue. The I did use a lot of the language from the Public Arts Commission in the staff report, so there might be a few sections that are sort of already known to the Planning Commission, such as where I'm talking about the conditional use project and the architecture. The artist is here. Her name is Sarah Coleman, and her piece is called The Edge of Wonder. It's inspired by the wonder found in both springtime and cinema. The two make everything feel possible, as if magic is in the air. The materials that will be used for the mural include latex and acrylic exterior grade primer and paints sealed with UV resistant Sherwin-Williams anti-graffiti clear coat, which is a silicone. The size of the mural is proposed to be 613 square feet and cover the entire wall up to the trim and eaves. An 8-inch border, aside from an 8-inch border around the mural, which will be the body color of the building, and would bring the building's primary color, Caldwell Green by Benjamin Moore, to the mural wall side. An archway effect creates and mimics the gable end, framing the pieces with a theater curtain look as the piece blends and goes behind the corners. and roof hip returns. So the application materials that were received were a site plan, photographs and elevations of the building in its current condition, and then renderings of the approved CUP project, and then also a rendering of the mural on that wall. So the colors can be seen in the mural itself. A color palette was not provided for the, color names and such, but it's pretty clear on the theme and color based on the rendering that was provided. Artist qualifications were provided. Sarah Coleman has experience with murals throughout our region, and she's done many notable projects in our area. Also included was a written agreement waiving the artist right under the Federal Visual Artists' Rights Act, which is a requirement under our ordinance, an appraisal, written permission by the property owner, a maintenance plan, and the filing fee, a lighting plan for the art piece, and a project description. So as a reminder, the Planning Commission is considered the design review authority for public art projects in the city and is required to review proposals for public art on private property. The commission should determine and make a finding of whether or not the mural proposed in the application and in its location is appropriate in the context of the neighborhood, relating to its location, dimensions, and materials. Staff has reviewed the completed application to verify compliance with our public art standards, and the Nevada City Public Arts Commission made a finding that the proposed mural is in compliance with the definition of public art in our municipal code and makes a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission. And the Public Arts Commission served as the design review authority, which is defined in our public arts ordinance as well. The Planning Commission is the design review authority, and the Public Arts Commission is the art review authority. So you'll see in your staff report, there is 3 recommended findings. That the proposed mural meets or exceeds the criteria of the ordinance and is consistent with the general plan and applicable land use designations. That the public art is consistent and compatible in its size, design, and appearance with the development and design of the proposed project and surrounding structures and neighborhood. And that the maintenance plan is sufficient to provide that the public art will be adequately maintained so as to ensure and preserve its purpose as a permanent piece of public art in the city. So I will bring up the mural here. So everyone knows it's on this wall face here. So it is somewhat close to the street, separated from the street by a
It's not
landscape.
projecting this.
Oh, sorry. So separated by this landscape strip and the sidewalk. This site plan isn't the one that shows the boulders and the concrete pad here. And I will let the applicant take it from here.
Great. Are we talking about the landscaping as well for this, at this time?
That was included in the
Yeah,
previous
the last
approval.
motion included that, yeah.
Well then, so here we have the mural. It's a beautiful mural. We have Sarah here to talk about it a little bit and discuss her inspiration and discuss, my understanding is that we're presenting this here to discuss the materials, the construction of it, the maintenance of the mural, because it's already been reviewed and approved by the PAC.
Right, our understanding of our mission here is not to talk about the content, which is beautiful, the content of the art, but only its framing, its lighting, its appropriateness in its architectural setting.
Okay, great, yeah. So I will mention, I'll let Sarah speak mostly to this, but I will mention, as we discussed before, there is illumination proposed for this mural. The rendering you see here is, it's a little bit flat, actually. Initially, just limitations of the software, I think, but the ridge right here, this piece of the roof that's highest, actually does stick out a little bit further and then cants back into this portion. So there's a fair amount of overhang there. There's about 24 inches of overhang from the face of the gable to the end of the ridge. And up there is where we have some illumination lights. It'll be up inside the soffit, hidden from view, but projecting back onto the wall. There is a third light, or there's an initial light that's actually mounted to the gable. It comes out on an arm, has a shield, and then directed back again towards the sign that will be here. We were asked to present one image of the mural without the sign, so that's what we're looking at here, just for the sake of clarity, to see mural content. And then the third portion of illumination for the sign was that in these little end returns of the soffits, there'll be a resets, or rather, inset ceiling light that'll be casting down. That said, I think Sarah probably has some wonderful things to talk about with the mural and mention it, but I'm here to answer any other questions.
Thanks.
I mean, I feel like a lot was kind of covered by what Lisa said. This, you know, intentionally has kind of a antique-y vibe, which I know will make a lot of people happy in the community and on the various boards and committees. And I also just think it's what needs to be there and feels really appropriate, and has sort of styled off of like vintage theater sets. So I wanted it to feel definitely like it's on a movie theater, and it's giving out that theme to people, but also it's here in Nevada City, so you'll see very native flowers, and to me, like, this is the river, maybe it's a full moon evening, it's feeling kind of magical, and so it's just very local and ideally just inspiring, pleasing to the eye, gives everyone a feeling of dreaminess or inspiration, and so that's sort of the goal. The palette is very muted to kind of reinforce that antique, not quite black and white, but as if like a black and white photo was colorized or a movie, so like a hint of color with a muted palette. And you can't see the landscape, but I did work with Karen, the landscape architect, and we partnered up to kind of marry the landscape with the mural, so it'll be more native plants. Kind of, ideally, it would be sort of three-dimensional, like the mural and the landscape kind of is one. Mostly plants you would see on your way out to the river and things like that. That will be in front of it, softening it. So look a lot nicer than even this.
One thing to add in here,
Yeah.
just jump in. This is from Karen Coffin. She mentioned that plant selections will require low amounts of maintenance and supplemental irrigation and are intended to provide year-round interest, attracting pollinators and hummingbirds. Most of the plants are native to California. Several cultivars of plants are native to the Sierra Nevada. She also mentions that the planting scheme includes taller shrubs towards the north and south of the planted area. That would be the opposite sides of the gable end. That will frame the mural, while lower plants directly in front of the mural will grow to a maximum height of 3 feet and will now obscure the mural. So there was intent with the planting design to frame the mural and not block it, even as the indigenous or the local cultivars mature. So we won't be hiding the mural with developing landscaping. We'll be celebrating it.
Materials is pretty straightforward for a standard outdoor mural. Latex paint, maybe a little bit of acrylic here and there, and then it will be sealed with an anti-graffiti coating. And that shouldn't have to be redone. This is east facing, so, you know, maybe 7 to 10 years, every 7 to 10 years, it will be recoated. And I'll be contracting with the theater to always be on top of that.
Just out of curiosity, is the recoating the graffiti coat, or do you have to do color? You have to
Just the graffiti coat.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In theory, it, you know.
shouldn't
it'll-
fade, it seals, it.
Yeah, I don't think anything should fade. It's just the protective qualities of it, because what it has is silicone in it. And so, you know, anything will bead up on it. And probably the silicone wears down over 7 to 10 years. If it was a south-facing wall, might be like 3 to 5 years. So, I think, do you have any questions?
I have a question. If graffiti is a concern, I also worry for the boulders that are going to be in front. I wonder if you can, do you know if you can, what that would look like if you coated them with that?
You could.
I don't, it's just a thing. I'm
You
not
could.
gonna ask you to do it.
You could. I'm sure you could use the same exact product.
I would
Yeah,
just-
and typically there's like a matte or a shiny version, and I always opt for matte. The shiny version can enhance the color just a little bit, but I don't think you would want a shiny rock. So I guess in theory you could try that. If you're worried about people like spraying on rocks, they could still take a sharp object and carve.
Well, I think also the rocks are more natural materials, so they can endure a more aggressive cleaning approach, whereas a mural, you can't really take abrasives and really scratch and scrape at it,
Right.
or pressure wash it, whereas the rocks would allow that without necessarily.
You could take a
damaging it.
sander to the rocks, and,
Yeah. Just
but yeah, sure, why not?
That's clever, silicone coating.
Yeah. Yep,
Somebody has thought of
and
this
it
clearly.
works, yeah, yeah.
Any questions?
And my only questions had to do with the maintenance, and those were answered, so.
And regarding maintenance, it's within our purview to determine that the maintenance plan is sufficient to provide that the public art will be adequately maintained to ensure and preserve its purpose. So the Arts Commission have reviewed that. Is that correct? Or are we duplicating? This is our first
Right.
public art thing. This is the first,
Right.
this is the trial run of the art,
Yeah.
of the art ordinance. So
Right,
we want to get it right
for
and
sure.
learn what we're doing.
Yes.
I believe it
there
was
dis-
discussed,
Was
yeah,
there
it was.
discussion? I wasn't at that meeting. I was out sick.
A discussion of the maintenance plan?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's sort of redundant. What they're required to find and then what we're required
Right.
to find are the same.
right,
And it's certainly in the theater operator's interest to have it looking
Right.
good. So we will just duplicate their finding of sufficiency of the maintenance plan. Russell isn't with us currently. He went to a meeting. We've been in touch a little bit.
Oh, he's still on. Do you want me to see if he can? Russell, are you here? Can you chime in? Did he message you?
What's the question?
The required findings for both the Arts Commission and for the Planning Commission is that to find that the maintenance plan is sufficient to provide, it's required finding number 3
For the mural.
for the mural.
Yes.
And the Arts Commission has done that and made a recommendation for our approval. So we don't need to go into the maintenance plan with the assumption that their recommendation comes with a finding of sufficiency there. right?
I think we're two different bodies.
Yeah,
Taking a look at the same idea, and we may disagree with them.
Yeah. And,
That's correct.
yeah.
Okay.
That said, do we have any issues with the maintenance plan?
It's the equivalent of you making a recommendation to the city council.
Right.
You
Them
know,
making a
They're gonna heavily rely on your recommendation.
Do we have the maintenance plan in our documents here?
Yes. It is.
Article 8.
Oh, great, thank you. And Sarah's described it too for us.
Yes.
And then I have a question for the architect. This, this is an image that's kind of applied imprecisely to the image of the gable end. Well, one question, it's smooth, a smooth wall finish then that this is going to be applied to?
It's going to be a stucco finish, but it'll be smooth stucco, yes.
I'll probably request that it's as smooth as possible,
Yeah.
even compared to the other sides of the building.
Yeah. It's like an imperfect smooth.
Yeah.
And the fascia, there's an overhang, and the fascia will be visible all the way down to the roof returns?
Correct.
And what's the spacing between the top of the mural where it gets closest to the roof plane? Is that the border that was described, does that apply to that architectural feature as well?
I believe the intent was that there would be the border of 8 inches of the back of the material, so that the mural would be below, if that makes sense. So it would actually be the color of the stucco behind the mural that's creating that border. So when you come up to, like, basically here would be the gable end. When you come up to the existing roof, there'd be an 8-inch space between the mural and the edge.
Yeah, the idea, it is a little tricky since we don't have the fascia on this. The idea is that the mural will sit just below the fascia in a way that it won't be obstructed. But for me, I chose to leave the green border on, well, for 2 reasons. One, because I always like to put an arch in wherever I can, because otherwise it's all triangles and squares mostly with architecture. And also, well, and 2, I wanted to integrate the mural, I wanted to integrate the building and the mural together, so it didn't feel like this one face of the building was something that's totally separate and not a part of it. So that's the other reason why I just thought the green color all the way around the mural would look better, basically. I don't know if that answers your question. So really,
It
we'll
does.
have to, I will just have to assess once the fascia is up, how I'll do this, you know, in terms of 6 to 8 inches down below, so that from all angles, or at least straight on, so that the fascia will not cover anything.
Right. And another question, the sign will be contained within the curtain detail entirely?
Yeah, yeah. It fits pretty perfectly, just right up inside that red curtain. I believe if we get to use the word theater, that the word theater runs right underneath the curtain, which also looks
I
great.
actually had to move it up a little bit.
Oh, you did?
It's on the-
Okay.
Yeah. So these images we're looking at here now were
Oh, yeah,
developed, I
thank you.
think, prior to us reducing the sign slightly
Okay.
for this planned application. And what you're seeing there is the old design where the theater was, actually, the word theater was below the curtain. But now that portion that says the onyx is actually smaller, and it no longer has the backlighting, and the theater is actually, the theater text is, I think,
Up higher.
intended to be, yeah, up higher.
That's fine with me.
We have to do the area of the sign is a basically invisible rectangle around all of the letters. So if we were to have the theater down below, then the sign was too big. So we adjusted it.
So the sign will attach on the wall after the mural's painted.
Oh, so carefully.
Yeah.
That's it for questions for me.
I had some questions clarifying on the lighting. It specifies 2,700 Kelvin, whereas I think your other lighting was at 3,000. Is that on purpose? Is that something changed when something else didn't keep up?
I think this kind of gets back to us trying to find lights that were available from different manufacturers that would all be, that would work well together. If there's a 3,000 Kelvin and that is, you know, if it's meeting the approval of the commissioners and all the other lights are 3,000 Kelvin, then I think we could make.
I love 2,700
Consistent.
Kelvin. I
Oh.
just think it's very jarring when you have different light temperatures.
Yeah.
Well, it
So-
seemed like the issue was that 3,000
Yeah,
was the only.
right, so
Yeah.
if you could find a
All
replacement for the
27.
3,000, that would be my preference,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think, you know, just making sure they're all the same
Consistent.
would be
Yeah.
my opinion.
Agreed.
And then the other thing too is noting that the lighting will be on a timer set to turn the mural lights on only between dusk and midnight, and I think based on our understanding of dark sky, that might need to be revised.
Adjusted to 10
Yeah.
PM.
Although the dark sky ordinance isn't in effect yet, the timing may need to be altered. When that happens, would you like to say something on that, Lisa? You have the "I'd like to say something" look on your face.
No.
Okay.
I would just note, and it was a mistaken assumption on my part, I would expect that the lighting here be included in the liaison that we're having before
Yeah,
to look
yeah,
at all
that's
the
great.
lighting.
Yes,
Photometric.
yes, that whole
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
This is part of the lighting of the building and therefore should be.
Okay.
Even though it's
All right.
illuminated art, it's
Not to be
like-
seen separately,
Yes.
because this is this is a public art application. Okay.
So I will note that in their application, the lights are proposed to be used between dusk and midnight. I think I just heard someone say 10.
I said 10 PM because that was my understanding of limits on dark sky.
Oh, I'm not clear on that.
Yeah.
If I can interject, because we definitely took the dark sky, I know it's not in place yet, but we've had conversations about it, and we're created the lighting plan to be able to be in compliance with that. My read of the dark sky initiative or ordinance was that for businesses, the time has to do with when the business ends. So that wouldn't always be 10, it could easily be past that.
I know I spoke with confidence there. I'm not confident that that's the time.
And I'm not either, but I seem to recall that in terms of businesses, it's specified when they're closed, when they close.
And anyway, in terms of the last approval that we made regarding lighting, it's all covered in there, right?
Or I think we make sure we include it in our motion here to make sure that it's covered in there.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Is everyone okay with midnight, or would we like to say at time of business close?
I think it should be included in whatever the lighting plan is for the building, not
Yeah.
the mural.
But speaking generally, I think
Yeah.
at least my assumption would be that it would be business hours.
Yeah, speaking generally,
Yeah.
like the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there times when you guys are open till midnight?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking that I like it living on its own time, but the hours of business, since you are open late, would be sufficient. And so I would also agree to include the mural lighting with our previous motions, to be included as business, in the business lighting finding.
Okay, so I have lighting on a timer, lighting for the mural on a timer that follows business hours. Include the mural lighting in a photometric plan, and the color temperature shall match the other lights on the site.
And to be reviewed by the liaison.
And all lighting, and mural lighting reviewed by the liaison.
She appears to be out of paper, just
Thanks, Andrew.
Any further discussion?
I think it looks so beautiful, Sarah.
It really
I'm
is.
really
Yeah,
looking
I think
forward to
those
it.
two.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you.
And just as a comment, I like the spacing you've decided to have around the murals so that the architecture can continue to live as architecture.
Right.
And we can see the shape of the building, so the architecture is continuous.
Right.
It wouldn't be a deal killer if it wasn't, but it's, from my point of view, I like it.
Good.
So if the roof line were curved, what would you do?
Just exactly what is done.
Maybe a different curve.
A different curve. Oh, what Sarah would do. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyone have a motion they'd like to begin here?
Let's see.
I guess there's no public.
There's no we're going to assume there's no public comment.
Let's see, what do we have to approve? I'm willing to make a motion, but I have to see what we need to move. Find the right page. I move that we approve the application with the three findings, 1, 2, and 3, that proposed mural meets or exceeds the criteria of the ordinance and is consistent with the general plan and applicable land use designations. The public art is consistent and compatible in its size, design, and appearance with the development and the design of the proposed project and surrounding structure of the neighborhood, and that the maintenance plan is sufficient to provide the public art will be adequately maintained so as to ensure and preserve its purpose as a permanent piece of public art in the city, and that the lighting be reviewed by a liaison with the notes that you took there, Lisa.
So including the recommended conditions of approval and added conditions for mural lighting shall be on a timer that follows the business hours. A condition for including the mural lighting in the photometric plan for the conditional use permit. And color temperature shall match the other lights on the site. And then a liaison shall be, the mural liaison shall review all of the lighting for that wall.
In accordance with the review of the rest of the lighting in the building. So with all those conditions.
I would
Second.
love, darn it.
Brevity is a virtue.
I guess Amy Cobden seconds.
Mr. Ermshar?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Knight?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yay,
There only remain-
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There only remains the appointing of a liaison.
Yeah.
Okay, they're pointing at me.
Volunteer?
Congratulations. It's really thrilling to be for this to be the first, for your art to be the first art ordinance
Right.
process that's come all the way through. So
Yeah.
congratulations to you and to all of us for making this
Yeah.
happen.
We're really lucky to have you.
Aw, thank you so much.
It's
Well,
really
It
dreamy.
feels like an awesome opportunity, and I'm delighted. And very first public art in Nevada City.
You are
How's
indeed.
that possible?
Officially public art.
Yeah.
Official.
Yeah.
Approved.
Yeah.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thanks. Thank you for the opportunity.
And I'd like to add that we're lucky to have all of you here. Thank you for all of the thought.
And Jeff Clark, who's not here
And
with us.
very lucky
who
to have
has
Jeff
great
Clark.
taste and
The whole
loves this
team.
community.
Love this theater
Yeah.
so much.
Yes.
Best.
Feelings mutual. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Okay, awesome.
Do we have any further business?
Announcement for our next regular meeting on July 18th. It's going to be, I believe Rod is absent and we won't have Wendy.
Make it.
So
I could sub in.
I'll send an email next week
I
to Peter, Tom, and Amy to make sure we have a quorum.
Will we have a new, I know
Thank you very
Hi,
much.
thank you.
Councilmember Klein has been considering.
Do I get to
new
tape
names.
this?
Yes, I don't have an update on that. I need to talk to city manager to see what the word is. Yeah.
I will adjourn.
Yay.
Thanks, you guys. Everyone.
I have chocolate.